Hello and welcome back to another episode of News of the Week. Today I want to talk to you about kind of like a set of numbers that really perplexed me that came out this week in the US market, which is obviously relevant because most of our tribe members are in the US and most of our investments in residential real estate are in the US. So that's basically why I'm talking about it. And what kind of happened, I have not really seen this before, but I also want to put it in context of how does it really help us or affect us or apply to us in the context of our residential real estate investing, especially when it comes to rent. And so what were these numbers? There are basically a number of different ways how organizations and the government are measuring or trying to figure out how many jobs have been lost, how many new jobs have been created, and what is actually happening in the industry. Now, you can make up your own mind which number you ultimately really like best. And I, for myself, have to say, especially since this whole thing with inflation and all of that stuff kind of started, I'm really getting more and more skeptical about government numbers because I just have the impression that they put statistics and values and weighing and seasonal adjustments and all that kind of stuff in mainly to make numbers in the direction that they want. So if the economy is growing, then the number is basically being displayed and shown that supports growing. If the economy is contracting, or for example, take inflation, we all know that the things that we need for daily life have gotten way more expensive than the 8, 10 or 9% or 5% or 6%. If that were really the case, nobody would really have a problem. But you go into all kinds of different places where you buy your food or where you get any kind of repair or you need any raw materials like wood or anything to repair your place. And everything is more like 20%, 25%, 30% more expensive. So what were these two numbers that I wanted to address for this week? The one number that came out was the number from an organization called ADP that basically accumulates all the information that they get from employers about payroll. How does that work? Most larger employers, at least these days, they don't do their payroll in-house anymore with their own accounting system. They farm this out to a company that specializes in it because there are so many components. There's Social Security and their retirement plans and 401k plans. And every state has different rules. And when a company is operating in different states, they have to adhere to different rules. So it makes sense that there are companies that basically manage all the payroll payments so that you actually get your payment once or twice a month into your account, or you get a check sent or whatever the payment method is. So this ADP organization gathers together lots of statistical data, and so they know what was the amount of payments, basically how much payroll, how many different people did we generate payroll for in the last month, and how did it change from month to month. And so they basically said in the month of June, to their numbers, the number of payroll activities that they had to do was almost 500,000 more than before. And so they reported that on a Thursday. And then on Friday, the government came out and said, okay, 209,000 new jobs were created. And you would think, okay, well, if there are 500,000 more payroll and only 200,000 jobs according to the government, how can that be? Well, the way they actually get the data is different. And obviously not every job that is getting payroll through a payroll company is automatically, like if you have, for example, a restaurant job or so forth, that might not have a payroll system, or just small organizations and stuff. So the government is claiming that the number of new jobs is much lower. Why would that be the case? Let's assume the ADP numbers where the actual payment has happened is 500,000, and like I said, the government says 200,000. Well, the government wants to signal to the Federal Reserve that the economy is not doing that great, and so please don't increase interest rates again. Right? So a lower number of new jobs would say the job market is finally reacting to the interest rates. A higher number, like the 500,000, would say the Fed would probably react and say, well, if we get 500,000 more jobs, then we need to increase interest rates more. So we will see what happens to that. But either way, and that's the important thing that I want to get across to you for this news of the week, whether the number is 500,000 or 200,000. What's relevant to us and why it's important to pay attention to it is that these people that get these paychecks and that get these jobs are our tenants. And so as long as the labor market is strong, besides these 500 and 200,000 numbers, another number associated with it was that from month to month on an annual basis, people make 4.5% to 5% more income. All those numbers indicate to us as residential real estate investors that at least so far we don't need to be too worried that our tenants cannot pay the rent, which is the most important thing because we want to generate cash flow, which generates passive income, which gets us to the time freedom point. So those two numbers were interesting, even though they were as far apart as they have ever been, and nobody can really explain how that is truly possible. But the good news is tenants get jobs, tenants get paid through payroll, and that way tenants can pay us. So I hope this was interesting for you. If you're not already a subscriber, please do. Give it a thumbs up if you see this on YouTube. If you hear us as a podcast or as an audio, please download it and give a comment. And I see you next week. Be well and stay safe.